We're recording.
Oh, we're recording? Oh,
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome back for another episode of Married or Something podcast. My name is Sariah.
And I'm Lee.
And we are the Scotts. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you just watched episode, I think that's going to be episode 6.
Is it? I'm losing track.
I know, right? I think it's episode 6. We are in the same set. We're at the same location.
Yep.
And that is Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We are recording these episodes over Thanksgiving. Over Thanksgiving break,
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yeah, we decided to come down. Well, by the time we post this, it'll be after Thanksgiving. So we hope you had
a good
Thanksgiving.
Right.
Yeah. But we came down to Oklahoma to spend Thanksgiving with my family because Christmas, of course, is going to be with your family in Florida.
Yeah, we should. You know what? That should be another episode, not this episode, but we should talk about holidays.
Right.
We talk about holidays and how that can influence your marriage.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So yes, that's what we're doing. I'm trying to think. Was there something else I was going to say as we open this up? Well, okay. So this is kind of. Yes, this is a different episode, but this is kind of continuing on the conversation that we started in the last episode. So if you haven't watched that episode, make sure that you cue that up and go check that one out so that this makes sense. This second episode makes sense, or this next episode makes sense. But anyways, so we are going to be talking about what it was like when we had our first child, which was Avery, our daughter, and she is now 4 years old. So Avery was born September 2019, which was a little over 2 years after we got married. We were married July 15th of 2017, and Avery was born September 8th of 2019. So that means we got pregnant about a year and a half after we got married. Which to some people that's quick, and to other people it's like, what took you so long?
Right. Ain't quick enough.
Ain't quick enough, right? But yeah, and us getting pregnant was at a very weird, trying time in our lives, and then in our marriage as well. So we at the end of our first year of marriage, we decided that, well, first of all, our lease was going to be up in our townhouse. And so we had to figure out, okay, do we want to just renew this lease and stay here? Do we want to move to another apartment and move somewhere closer to where I worked? Because we got, our apartment was like Fenton, which is like South St. Louis County, whatever. But I worked in North County, Hazelwood. And so it was a very long commute to and from work every day, and it took a toll on me, a whole huge toll on me. So it was like, do we find an apartment that's going to be closer to my job, or do we find a house? So we decided that we were going to do the house because we were thinking of
my wife is nice. My wife is very nice, and I love you.
I love you.
I love you, girl.
Okay, go ahead and interject, because apparently I'm leaving something out.
It's not that you leave something out. Like, we decided, yes, but it wasn't without resistance, because I think my wife was content with the apartment.
I was.
She was very content with the apartment. I was not. I did not want to stay in an apartment or a townhouse or anything like that. I wanted a house for financial reasons, but also just for peace of mind reasons. Like, I just wanted something of our own, like something that we call our own. Mm-hmm. And the apartment that, the townhouse that we were renting, at the end of the year, was about $15,000, and we had nothing to show for it at the end of the year. So, me looking at that, I'm just like, that don't make sense to me. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to spend that type of money and then not have anything to show for it at the end of the day. And then when I raised it to Sariah, like, Sariah was like, I mean, I'm fine here. Like, I'm truly fine. I don't need to.
Right, because to me, I was like, well, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to live in an apartment with your spouse for, like the first couple of years of your marriage, and then you move to a house. Like, who just goes like straight from an apartment after the first year straight to a house? Like, to me, that I know, but to me, that's just not, I guess, the vision or how I thought things were supposed to go.
Yeah.
And so it felt like we were moving really, really fast. And I was like, we can just stay here. I mean, and not necessarily we could just stay where we were, because I definitely did want to move closer to my job. So, but I was okay with staying in an apartment.
Right.
I wasn't necessarily like, oh yeah, let's go get a house. I was like, oh, we can stay in an apartment.
And so that's why I said my wife was really nice, because she was cool with just staying. And it was me, I was the malcontent. And then, my wife assimilated to me and just said, you know what, babe, let's go try and get the house.
Yeah.
Which we went through, like, what I was asking her to do in order to get the house was more than I ever thought about asking anybody to do. And this was, let's say 2018, right?
It was 2018.
2018. And of course we're both working, but there was no way for us to both be working and us to save up the amount of money to get the house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, hey, how about we just like go and live with somebody for a year, and then by the end of the year, we'll have what we need to go get the house that we want. Right. Never thought about ever doing that. Never thought about going to live with anybody. But then it came up in conversation. It's like, okay, can we do it? Is it feasible? And my wife gave me one condition in terms of who she was comfortable with, and I tried to assimilate to that, and it worked. Like, we moved in with somebody, and we were saving to get the house, and we were on our way. But if you did listen to the episode 6,
I think this was going to be episode 6.
Okay, if you listen to episode 6, then you will remember when I said to pay attention to your spouse, because as soon as my wife gave me the okay that we were going for the house, like, my one track brain like kicked in, and I did not pay attention. And it's something that, I should have been more vigilant about when making the certain moves that we did. Should have been more vigilant about paying attention to her and her disposition, and what things that she was saying, and really just more committed to her. I should have been more committed to her, and I'm saying that openly, like, to everybody. I should have been more committed to my wife in that season, because she was giving me signs of what was to come, and I did not I didn't see it. Didn't see it at all. I'm just writing it off like, oh, that's just natural, that's normal. But it wasn't normal for her, and I knew it wasn't normal for her if I would have paid attention, and I wasn't paying attention. So 2018, we move in with somebody, and then we start saving money to get what we think is the goal. Right. 2018 school year starts. My wife, even before the school year, like, she'd been talking about, like, she did not want to go back.
Yeah.
I really don't want to go back to school. And I'm thinking, like, oh, that's just like kids saying like they don't want to go back to school. Like, nobody really likes to go back to school. Right. But
and I didn't think anything of it either. Yeah. I was just like, oh, this is just what they think they call it, like the teacher blues or the summer blues or something. And I was like, I'll be fine. Like once I go back, once I start the school year, like this feeling will go away and I'll be good. Yeah. But it didn't go away.
It didn't go away.
It got worse.
Right. So that feeling that you have before school, like it just stayed. Yeah. It stayed with her. And like I'm going to work, she's going to work.
But I'm waking up in the morning like crying.
Right.
Because I don't want to go to work, and I'm calling off like every other day, having
personal days.
Right, personal days, because like mentally I was really, really struggling with going. And so one day I woke up and I was just like, Lee, I cannot do this anymore.
This was in, I think, November.
Yeah, I think it was. It was in October or November
of 2018.
Right, and you were just like, well, then quit.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, we're trying to get a house. I can't quit because the agreement was that Lee's income would go towards the bills, that we had left. And my income would be strictly going to our savings account so that we could save for this house. And so I was like, if I quit, then how are we going to save for this house? And you were just like, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. But like this job is not worth, losing you. Because I think I had told you, like, I was having suicidal thoughts. Like that's how bad.
Yeah, you told me that you were like seriously considering just running your car into the median.
Yeah.
While going to work. And I'm like, it ain't that serious. Like it is not, nothing is worth doing that. Like, I don't care what it is. So when she told me that that's what she was feeling, I'm like, this is not even a hard decision. Like, stop.
Yeah, just stop. So I went in there and I told him, and so my principal, I was just like, I'm leaving. I was going to try and stick it out. I was going to try and finish out
the school year.
Yeah, I was going to try and finish out the school year. I was just like, you know what? After this school year, I'm done, sir. And he was like, okay, no problem. And then it was like a couple of weeks later, I went back in again and I was just like, scratch that. I'm leaving after Christmas. Like once we go on Christmas break, I am not coming back. And I remember I went in that office and I cried in that man's office. And he was just looking at me like, what do I do with this?
I don't know.
And it was so funny because I was like, can I have a hug? And he was like, sure. And he gave me a hug and I walked out just totally
a lot of emotions right there.
It's a lot. He was like, he was literally just standing there like, I don't even know what to do with this. Like it was just a lot. So anyways, so that was the mental state that I was in when I left teaching. And so we go to Disney World.
Go to Disney World.
Have a great time in Disney World.
Always have a great time in Disney World. We always
have a great time in Disney World.
Yes.
And then we come back and take a pregnancy test the next week.
Got him.
Positive.
Got him.
January 4th is when I found out that I was pregnant with Avery.
Yep. It happened. So, and actually it was just crazy how those things is correlated. Like as soon as we stop teaching, then we get pregnant. And I believe, no, backtrack. October. Was that October? October 18th. No. October of 2018.
Okay.
Was that the year you went to Nortonville? I think you went to Nortonville.
Yes.
October 2018.
Yes.
And we were riding. You was talking about what you wanted to do.
Yes.
Not, not teaching in terms of like, but you wanted to do worship. You wanted to do teaching, consulting,
right?
All those things,
right? And
we were talking about it, and of course we think it's okay. Well, it's pie in the sky. Like I don't. Like you're listening and it's not that you're discounting it or that you're throwing it away, but it's just like, this is aspirational.
Right.
You know? And you just put that in one side and just like, okay, but you deal with what is now. So October 2018, she says she wants to be a worship consultant. November, we're like, we are not teaching no more.
Yeah.
December, ain't coming back.
Right.
I quit. And even like it was like a financial thing with it. So we had to pay for the training of the next teacher to take your spot.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
I just know whatever was left of my contract, they were going to take a certain portion of it and put it aside. I guess for training or for something.
Right, for the training of the next teacher.
But it's not like they was going to train him. They ain't train him to do nothing.
That's beside the point.
They ain't train that man to do nothing. They just took that money.
That it was a cost. There was a cost associated with that decision, but still, it was the right decision. Anyways, so we get pregnant in January. So we're still trying to figure out what we. But this is the start of. At the time it was Sariah Scott Music, right? Sariah Scott Music. That's what we started with. God, we've come a long way.
We have come a long way.
So, we started just doing something. I think you started taking lessons, piano lessons. I did.
I started taking piano lessons, voice lessons. Yeah.
So, and there's a lesson in that, in terms of like, if you say you want to do something, it doesn't matter if you're talented in it. Like, are you willing to put the work in? Like, are you willing to actually go do what you say you're called to do, and sit under somebody and listen and learn and stuff like that? So Sariah did that. Meanwhile, we're preparing, we're nesting, so to speak, but we're still living with somebody else because that's where we're. And like this whole time, all of this is happening. Like, I'm still focused on trying to get the house.
Right.
Still focused on that.
But we're going from 2 incomes to one.
Right.
But the bills ain't changed.
Bills did not change. Nope.
The only thing that changed was we weren't paying for rent.
Right. But
we still had phone bills, right? Car payment, groceries,
insurance.
Right.
So in terms of what we were paying for, it was the same.
Right. It was rough.
So there was no like margin. Like, you were paying what you were making was what you were paying.
Yeah.
So we were just kind of stagnant for a little while. And that happened all the way up until Avery was born. Yeah. Because we were in the same space.
Right. And so to try and help out, remember I DoorDashed.
She did DoorDash
for a little bit. Now picture this, okay?
A pregnant woman.
Right. In the summer. Okay, because I DoorDashed from I think I DoorDashed all of July and maybe part of June too. Yeah. But it was the summer, okay? It's hot. Right. And I'm DoorDashing pregnant. 7 months? Yeah, about 8 months pregnant. And I'm DoorDashing and I'm doing vocal lessons and piano lessons and I'm trying to contribute, what I could to our finances, because I felt horrible that I quit teaching, and I felt like I messed up our plan. Yeah. And I was just like, and the thing too is, like, I remember Lee saying when we first got married, I don't want to have kids until we have a home to bring them into. Yeah. And you were just like, I don't want to bring them home to an apartment. I don't want to bring them home to somebody else's house. I want to bring them home to our home. And the fact that I was pregnant, I was just like, we're not going to be able to do, what he wanted to do. And I felt so bad. So I was willing to be out there in the heat, running in and out of these restaurants, dropping off, food to people that was rude and mean. And
sight to see.
I mean, literally one time this DoorDash lady was so rude to me. Like, I cried. And I like purposely got out the car and showed her, I'm pregnant. And you made me cry. Like, it was so bad. It was so bad. But anyway, so we get to having Avery in September. And Avery was actually supposed to be born on September the 12th. Yeah. But Lee Yeah, because you pushed for it. I was like,
well, it was
I'm
two
good.
reasons. It was two reasons that we induced. One, because Cartwright was going to be gone.
Right. So my doctor was gonna be on vacation, and I was just like, "Girl, I've been with you all this time. Why are you going?"
Right. So I was part of that because like we rode with Cartwright this entire time, and I'm like, we ain't about to switch players now.
Right. Like we don't know these people.
Like we a team. Like we ain't about to hit no sub out. No. You about to deliver this baby. Right. So we induced on the 7th. We tried to go on the 7th and it didn't work.
And then also because my family, Avery is the first grandchild on both sides, right?
Yeah.
So of course we're in St. Louis, so his family's going to be there. My family, I wanted them to be there too. So it was just like with pregnancy, like you never know like when the baby's going to come. Like, like those due dates, those are estimates.
Right.
Those are not exact dates. And so so by us scheduling like an induction, it kind of gave my family like a date to say, hey,
we know that the baby's coming.
Right. So be here, by this day, whatever. So so we did the induction, and Avery obviously was not ready to come because I was in labor for 26 hours. She
wasn't with all that.
And even now, like Avery is the type of kid that is just like, when I'm ready to, I will. And that's been very interesting as parents, how to navigate that. But she was like that even before she came out. She was like, I will come when I'm ready. And Avery was not ready. So I was in labor for 26 hours. I pushed for 5 hours.
Yep.
It was awful. It was so awful. And I was so tired and so exhausted after having her. And, they were just like, so they had broken my water. And if your water is, if that water sac is open for too long, then infection can set in and things like that. And so they were just like, ma'am, we may have to do a C-section because your water's been broken for this amount of time. The risk of infection is going higher and higher. So they kept checking for fever and heart rate and all this other kind of stuff. And thank the Lord, like everything was fine. And we didn't end up having, have to have a C-section. I, gave birth naturally or whatever. But yeah, that was crazy. And then when Avery came out, Avery was like gray when she came out. And then she was not breathing when she came out. So they had to work on her in the room. And then we finally, I guess we finally heard her cry. I don't know if that's what it is, or you just went over there and you watched them like work on her and stuff. And so that was scary.
I would imagine it was a lot scarier for you because you're still, your feet are still up in the stirrups.
Yeah.
You just gave birth to this baby.
And then I started hemorrhaging.
And then they take the baby over there. Like it's a team of nurses right there. So you can't see.
Right.
Like I was with you and I wasn't leaving you, but like, I think you pushed me over to the table. I think so. Because I don't think I would have left if you didn't allow me to leave. So I went over there to the table, and before she took a breath, like she was like, so I guess like I was talking to the nurses, like I just wanted to. It's like, all right, what's happening? What's going on? Like, hey, what's going on here? So I was talking to the nurses, and I think Avery heard me. And Avery heard me, and like she started reaching, like she wasn't breathing yet, but she reached out. Like, she reached out towards the voice. Yeah. So, then one of the nurses like, oh, she's reaching for daddy. She's reaching for daddy. So as soon as like, so I put my hand right there. She like with her little small hand, like she grabbed one of my fingers, and as soon as she grabbed the finger, like she started yelling like.
That is so cute. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah, it happened pretty quick, and you were busy at the time,
right? So, I was busy getting a needle shoved in my leg because I'm hemorrhaging over here.
Yeah. So wow. So she didn't start crying until she grabbed onto my hand, and then she didn't she reached for me because I was talking to the nurses. Yeah. So she just knew my voice from being in your womb all that time. So So we have the baby.
Yes, we have the baby.
We have the baby, Avery. They say, like, you know, her head got stuck, so she got a cone head.
Bless her heart.
She had a cone head at first.
Right. Because she wasn't ready to come.
Yeah.
And we forced her out.
Yeah, so her head got stuck, and that's one. And then they were like, well, you know, because of how my wife's, you know, hips were, they were like, well, if she has another baby, you know, there's a chance for a shoulder dystocia.
Yeah. Yeah. And shoulder dystocia just means that that the baby gets stuck in your pelvic bone, and they have to do multiple maneuvers to get the baby out. Mm-hmm. So the doctor, as Avery was coming down, the doctor had to turn her in order to get her out. And normally, like, you will have to turn a baby to get them out, but they had to turn Avery like more than normal. Right. They had to turn her, and then she still was stuck. So then they had to do, I think they call it like something compression, pelvic compression or stomach compression, in order to like push her out from the stomach.
I know y'all didn't come to this podcast for this you know, birth talk, but whatever.
Yeah, but listen, ladies, like it's a real thing. Okay, so this is for the ladies. Okay, right. But men, you do need to know this, because men need to be as aware of their wife's health care as the wife is, because you need to know what's happening with your wife. Okay, period.
Just tell them you got the North.
Right, that's what Lee said.
When you get to that, when you get to the hospital, when she says, hey, I think my water broke, or you think that, you know, you're starting to have those contractions and stuff like that, when you get there and it's like, all right, yeah, we dilated, we about to accept her, you tell every nurse, you tell every doctor, you tell everyone that will listen to you, we the North. All right, we are the North. We handle North. What's happening South, that is for the medical professionals, that is for the nurses, that is for the doctors, that is for everybody else. We, the North, do not go down there. Do not think that you have, it was like, hey, you know, the head's coming. You want to feel the head? We, the North. Don't no, we're not going south. All right.
Yeah.
You want to come look at it? No, because you will never unsee that, fellas. You're not going to unsee that. Like I accidentally looked the first time. Accidentally. I was like, this is what is going on here? This is like, this is not what I thought it was. Like, this is not what it was when back when we was in Disney World. All right, this is not what I signed up for. No. So you know, fellas, just say we the North. They know what that means. And, you know, govern yourself accordingly. Don't have them, you know, saying that, hey, you can do this, you can do this. No. We the North. You tend to your wife. You tend to make sure that she's, you know, she's doing what she needs to do. She's breathing. She's pushing, all that type of stuff. You are not a doctor. Right. You are not a nurse. They don't need you. Okay. Mm-hmm. You're good where you are. Don't go down. All right. That's number one.
Hold on. Something's going on with my phone.
Something's going on with her phone. All right. She is. We gonna stop.
All right, and we're back. Would it be an episode if we didn't have some sort of technology issues?
Nope.
All right, so that was the hospital giving birth. So then after I give birth, I decide, okay, I'm going to breastfeed. And
yes, Lord.
That was a very, very rough experience. And it did not go the way that I thought that it was going to. So I start trying to, and everything was going fine until Avery gets jaundice. And that was my first experience with mom guilt. And that extended our hospital stay. I think typically if everything goes well, I think you're in there for 2 days.
You're there for 1 day for birth, and then the next day. And then one day for observation, and you're out. So 2 days.
So 2 days. But our total stay was, I think, 4 to 5 days. Yeah.
Well, no. So we're talking about the induction day, which the baby didn't come.
Okay.
And then the next day baby came. And then the next day they were waiting for Avery to have a movement. She didn't. So then that was an extra day. Then jaundice, that was another. So we stayed there 5 days.
For 5 days, yeah. And so,
and they bill you for all those days. I just want to let you know that.
Yes. And so we had to so she was under the lights, and I mean, it was just, I had to supplement. And that, like I said, that was my first experience with mom guilt and feeling like I failed my baby. And then we go home, and I'm still thinking in my mind, this is not what Lee wanted. Lee did not want to go home to somebody else's home. And here we are bringing our baby home to somebody else's home. Yep. And it just, I felt like I was failing just all around. And so, where I'm very self-conscious being a new mom, because I want to do things, right. And I'm hearing all these voices of what I need to do, what I should do, and what we used to do back in the day. And I was just like, it was so much. And I was just, I was struggling. I was struggling so bad. The loss of sleep was rough.
Especially when you're not, so as a new mother, as a new, like when you don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And then it just comes just like that. Like it's tough on you.
It was really rough. The loss of freedom was hard to come to grips with. Because it was just like, when we lived by ourselves or before we had kids, like if it was 10 o'clock at night, but we was hungry, we like, let's go to Applebee's. Okay. No problem. Let's go. But then, you had a kid, and it's like, you trying to do bath time routine, you trying to read a book, you trying to do, for me, I was breastfeeding, but I was also supplementing with formula. So I'm trying to figure out this pumping schedule, and I'm still trying to nurse, and I'm, trying to wash bottles and and the kitchen where we were living, we were upstairs, but the kitchen was downstairs. But there was a bathroom upstairs. So it was like, I'm like washing bottles in the bathroom because I don't have the energy to walk down the stairs to go to the kitchen and actually wash the bottles. I mean, it was awful. And then it was awful for me, not our living situation, but just everything I was dealing with. It was awful, and it was a lot to handle. And then because we were living with somebody, it's not like we had, or at least I didn't feel like I could be everywhere, like have things everywhere. I felt like, I didn't want to be in the way. And I didn't want my baby to be in the way. So it was like, let's just keep everything in our small little area. And so our room ended up getting like super crowded with diapers and clothes and bottles and boxes. And I mean, I felt like, I just felt like everything was just crashing down on me. And I was just, it was rough. It was really, really rough. And I felt so disconnected from Lee. I remember you being there, but that's it. Like, like you were just there, but I don't, like, we barely talked.
Yeah, we did.
I feel like you weren't really around like that because the thing about it is like, I wasn't working. So that's really started my stay at home mom, whole journey, but Lee is still going to work. Yeah. And I'm like, and he's gone all day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where are you? I'm like, what? You're just gone, And then it's like, and we always knew this, that I was not going to be the overnight person.
Yeah, no.
Because I'm a morning person. So if you listen to the last podcast, I'm a morning person. I'm not a night person. Yes, so around that 9 o'clock, 9:30 time, Sariah is out. But babies, of course, like
baby was up.
Right. They don't understand night and day, so you have to train them in that. And Avery, to this day, Avery is a late night owl.
She's a night owl.
Like her daddy.
My daughter.
Right, like her daddy. And she's not a morning person. So she would be up late at night, and I would just like, Lee would come home and I would give the baby to him and I would go to bed. And then when she would wake up in the morning, I would get up with her, and Lee would sleep. and then leave to get up and go to work and be gone. And like, and that was it. And so it felt very, very lonely.
We didn't, there was no inter time, like time where I would be home, but you would have the energy to actually interact with me.
Right. Because when you were at home,
you were asleep, or you were just out of it. Like you were, because I mean, breastfeeding does that. Like breastfeeding takes a lot to do, and then we were supplementing.
Right, because I couldn't pump more than an ounce. Right,
and then because of that, like now we're hyper conscious. Like, all right, is my baby getting enough?
Right.
Like, it was a lot going on, and then just trying to keep up with everything. Like, you know, of course, you got to go to work. Then when you come to work, then when you get off of work, you come home. You know your wife's tired, so you try to spell her. And you know what? I think that Avery, like back in the day, I think she took pity on me.
Did she?
I think she took pity on me. I think Avery took pity on me. Like she saw me like as tired as I was. Like we would just be up watching NBA games. We would just watch like NBA League Pass and just put a game on. Like I would be slumped. Like she would just be watching. And, you know, we would just sit there for hours. And I'd be like till 3-4 in the morning, and then you know, she finally, you know, go to sleep, and you know that she sleep for good when her mouth is open. If her mouth is open, then you gonna have some time. So when her mouth is open, you make sure that you put her back in. Try to get as much sleep as you can until you gotta go to work. Right. So that schedule almost took me out. Like it's not a good schedule. I don't recommend it for anybody. But that's on the one side, and another side that my wife talked to, and she said she felt lonely. It's like, like it was a lonely time, just because like you don't know how to interject yourself in each other's routines, you know, without severely compromising something else. So like if I get an opportunity to stay home from work, then you take it. Like you take it and you be home and be like, yeah, cool, we got some time together. But I mean, it happens few and far between, because at the time she was born, it's about the end of the year. The end of the year is one of the busiest times. So you know, you're moving around, moving and shaking, and it's not just, you know, the church and ministry stuff. It's like I'm trying to do things because I'm still trying to make extra money so that we can.
You were doing Lyft?
I was doing Lyft. I was doing what other thing was I doing at that time? I was doing jobs like media jobs, just to try to make some extra money. And it was tiring, it was frustrating, and when you say like you felt lonely, it's not only like, so I felt that, but then I also felt unsupported, you know, because like, and this is just, I mean, I just want to be transparent, honest, 100. Like men, like our natural state, we don't like to share. We don't. My wife is an amazing person. I didn't know how much I would have to share her with my kids. And like I got used to like our relationship, our unit being us two against the world. Like, okay, like that's the type of support that I got used to. So then baby come, and it's like now I have to share her. Not only do I have to share her, like I had to give her completely up, because we used to go on dates. We don't go on dates no more. We used to, you know, have this or that time. We don't have it anymore. I saw like how much energy it was taken from you, like to try to keep up, and then the guilt that was compounding, just because there's no meter on the side of your breast that tells you like how much was actually taken. So like you just have to trust that they did, but because you don't know, you assume the worst, and then once you assume the worst, now everybody's on edge. So I didn't like having to share my wife in that vein. And then like pressure was coming too, because like I saw the toll, like it's not getting better. It's not getting better. Like, okay, well, it's new, give it time, give it a week, give it 2 weeks, give it 3 weeks, give it 4 weeks. It's not getting better. And this was at the time to where in our living situation, now mind you, it would be up to the people that hosted us to tell you. Like I would have no problem telling you, but they would have to tell you what they did for us. But they were amazing to us.
Yes.
They were amazing.
Absolutely.
We would not be in the situation that we are in if it was not for them.
Yes.
1000%. Again, they would have to tell you, because that's just, the type of understanding that we have in terms of like making sure that they know, like, hey, it's nobody else's business what we do for each other. But yeah, they were amazing to us. But due to circumstances outside of their control, things were happening to where I didn't feel like my wife, and then now my new daughter, was protected through no fault of the host, but I didn't feel like they were protected. And it's not getting better with my wife's disposition. Like she's still always tired. She's still moody. She's still doing all these things to where like that's not who I need her to be. So this is in October. I think I leave the house. I'm going to work. Something happens, like an interaction happens, or something in my brain happens, and then I just have this like come to Jesus meeting. Like, this is not working. It's not working. Like, whatever. Like, I knew we wanted to step out and get our house. It's what I wanted to do. My wife assimilated, but it is not working.
Right.
So, I'm never above, and I say this, and hopefully my example speaks louder than my words, but I'm never above repenting. Like, it was a horrible feeling. But don't let the feeling take away from the decision that needs to be made. Like,
right.
There was a decision that had to be made as far as what we were going to do as a family. And the best decision that we could make at that time when Avery was here was to do something to try to give her the mother that I knew Sariah could be. And she was not that person while we were yet still living with our host.
Right.
Didn't have the money.
Right.
Didn't have the didn't really know what we were going to do.
Right.
But I knew that she needed space. She needed space that she could not get with us living with somebody. Like, she needed to be a mom outside of people's eyes. Like, she needed that space and grace to make mistakes as a mom and not be judged for it.
Right. And that's not to say that anybody was judging.
Right.
But because I was so in my own head,
right,
And I personally felt insecure. It felt like my mothering was on display.
Right.
For whatever, you know, and that's something that I learned in therapy, is just like, you cannot think for other people. Like you have no idea what other people are thinking.
Right.
But because I was so messed up in my head, I was just like, you know, anytime Avery cried, I felt like I had to, you know, hurry up and make her be quiet, because it's just like, don't have people thinking I don't know what I'm doing, Avery. Like my brain would be like, you don't know what you're doing. See, that's why you should have just gave her the formula. You know, like it was really rough. And then because I was breastfeeding, like breastfeeding takes a lot of space.
Yes, it does.
And I know that sounds crazy, but it takes a lot of space, and it takes a lot of, I don't think vulnerability is the right word, but I mean, it's just like
intimacy, I think.
Maybe so.
It's a certain type of intimacy. I think in an intimate setting, like, so just in the place that we were, that we was before we moved back. So we had to move back to the townhouses.
Yes, we did have to move back.
We moved back. But before that, the space that you would call your own was just our room.
Right.
Right. And
everything else was common
area. And common area, it's not that you couldn't do it there.
Right.
It's just that, you know, there's situations, there's things that could arise, like anything could happen in the common area.
Right.
But you wanted to be in a controlled environment, especially in your first time breastfeeding.
Right. Because it's like in the common area, you know, I needed to cover up.
Right.
And it was just like, I'm fooling around with this cover up, but I can't see if she's latching right. I can't, like, she's uncomfortable, I'm uncomfortable. Yeah. And it's just like, you never know who's going to walk in. I mean, it was just, it was crazy.
Yeah. So
it was crazy.
Because of that, I think it takes a bigger intimate setting. It takes a bigger place to where it's not just a room, but it's a space that you can control.
Right. Right.
So we had to move back to Gravois Ridge. I felt like, I'll tell you, like I was ready to fight. I was ready to fight. I was angry.
But you know what, baby? Let's talk about like what led up to that.
What, moving to Gravois Ridge?
Yeah. So all that's going on with the breastfeeding, right? And I don't know if we had gone to Lawton for something or what we were on the road for, but I remember us being in the car. We were driving back into St. Louis. And I remember telling you, like, listen, if you don't figure this out, like, what we gonna do?
We weren't on the road. We were in St. Louis. Okay.
Well, we were doing something, but I was just like, if you don't figure this out, what we're gonna do, I'm going home. I'm taking my baby.
You told me that while we were in the house. We were at home.
Were we? I thought we were in the car.
No, we were at home.
Okay. And I was just like, and I'm going home because I'm struggling. I'm struggling and I can't do this. And you know, and Lee in our marriage, and even when we were dating, like that's part of the reason why I knew that like he was the one for me, or like that, yes, this was the right thing to do when we came to getting married, because Lee always had a plan. Like Lee always knew what to do, what to say. You know, he always like worked out, you know, different scenarios. Like, okay, well, if this doesn't work, then let's try this. And so I knew, like, I always felt safe and secure with him because I knew that he was not just flying in the wind. He has sense.
Say that again.
My baby has sense.
Sense.
My baby has sense. So
country.
but then we get to this house situation and he has no plan. Or if he has a plan, he's not telling me about it. So I felt very unstable. I felt very insecure. I was just like, I don't know what's happening here. Every day I was just like, well, what are we doing? Like, are we getting an apartment? Are we not getting an apartment? Are we getting a house? Are we not getting a house? Are you going to go work? Am I going to go work? Like, what are we doing? And there was just no plan. And the only thing I could think of to get some sort of security and to feel safe and to feel like, I don't know, just to feel better. The only thing I could think of was just go home. Just go home. Take your baby and go home. And so I told him that. And it was like the next, I think it was that same day. or either the next day, he came home with brochures and was like, here are the different apartments that I'm looking at. I went to look. Like he did not go to work. Like he left for work, but he didn't go to work. He drove around St. Louis looking at different apartments for us to go to. And so he came home with the brochures, and he was like, well, this apartment is up the street. You know, that one kind of looks nice, but honestly, I think for what we can afford and for the space, we should just go back to where we were when we first got married. And we did. And I agree with you. Like it was a humbling experience, and it was embarrassing. At least I felt embarrassed, because it was just like, you know, we had these big plans, and everybody knew our plans. Like everybody knew what we were doing, what our plan was. You know, we're going to go get this house. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then to have to be like, well, actually, we're going back. It was just like, man. And then talk about mom guilt again. I felt like I failed, and I felt like this whole thing was my fault because I quit working. And if I wouldn't have quit working, then we would have had the money. And if we would have had the money, then we would have had the house. But no, I had to stop working because I was mentally weak and I couldn't handle it. And then look, and then me. And then here you go get pregnant. Like it was just by myself.
Right. Like you got pregnant by yourself.
I got pregnant by myself. And here you go get pregnant. And now you got this baby. And now what you gonna do, Sariah? And I felt like the entire situation was my fault. And I felt like Lee was mad at me. I felt like he was angry at me, and I felt like he was blaming me for everything that we were in. And then even when we go and get this apartment, you know, we couldn't afford it because when we lived there the first time, we had 2 incomes.
Right.
So of course it wasn't an issue because it was just us 2 and we had 2 incomes. But now we're going back to the same apartment with only 1 income and a baby. Now, thankfully, a lot of expenses that came with the baby, like formula, clothes, diapers, wipes, people blessed us 10 times over with, you know, with formula, with clothes, with diapers, wipes. I mean, literally, I didn't buy diapers for Avery until after she was 1 year old. I didn't go buy wipes until after she was 1. So our biggest, and then even clothes, I didn't buy clothes for Avery.
Clothes for days.
Right. Some things Avery could only wear one time because she had so many clothes. So those were not our expenses. Now formula we did. Had to spend money on that because of the supplementing. And then finally we just switched over at around 6 months. We just went straight formula. And then, you know, outside of the hospital bills, like that was really it. But still it was just like, you know, we really couldn't afford it. And I knew we couldn't afford it. And I could see the stress on him of trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to pay for rent this month? And how am I going to pay for this bill and that bill? Because we just didn't make enough. And so I saw the weight and the pressure that it put on him. And I blamed myself for that.
Well, it was a very, very interesting experience. But like also like, you know, God was pretty much flexing on us the whole time too. Cause if you remember, right when we had Avery, there was I don't know if I want to put them out there too, but I've already put them out there in this podcast, but I'm not gonna say their name. We're meeting some friends of ours. And he asked me, are you good?
Yes, I remember this.
You remember that? Because you started crying.
I did. I started crying. And I'll tell y'all why I started crying in just a second.
So he asked me, am I good? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And he's like, no, like financially, are you good? Like, are you good? And, you know, I truly did not want to be honest with him. But, you know, I felt pulled. I felt like, you know, God was telling me I had to. So I told him like what was going on. And then, you know, he just accepts it. He says, okay. And then maybe like in the sense, like he says, like, you know, I don't know what it is, but like the Lord's telling me to, you know, support you and your wife during this time. And he supported us like out of his own pocket, like gave us money
for months. Yeah.
For months.
Every month.
Absolutely. Never had to ask for it. I was never going to ask for it. Like if he missed it, like I was never going to do that. But he was consistent, and like I didn't ask him. Like he just said, like, I felt led to.
Yeah.
And that was one way that God was sending us people to help us. But go ahead, say before I move on.
So the reason why I cried was because literally the night before that interaction, we had laid in bed and we had prayed together.
Yeah.
And we were asking the Lord for help, like financially, and what to do and all that kind of stuff. And the next day, that's what happens. And so I was crying because I was just like, the Lord really does hear us. The Lord really does listen to us. And he like our prayers are not just falling on deaf ears. Like he is aware and mindful of what we need. And he's willing and he's able and ready to send us the help that we need. And so that completely just broke me down, because I was just like, the Lord really does love us. He loves us.
Yeah. So that happened, but going backwards. So like, let's go back to that interaction. I was probably, and we've gone to couples counseling, and we've talked about it. That was probably the lowest moment of our marriage to me.
Yes.
Because like to hear your wife say like, okay, well, I'm like, if you don't get it together or you don't make a plan, you know, I'm going to take me and Avery and we going to go home. I was just like, what? Now, again, because of who I am, like I got so much happening in my brain at the time. I'd already seen like the scenario, like I'd seen the situation going worse and worse and worse, and then she hits me with that. It's just like, and that's probably what the thing was, what happened, to where like why I went off and did what I did. But that was like so hurtful. Like I was hurt. Like I needed time and some therapy and some counseling just to get over that, because like to me it wasn't her responding to the situation, it was her responding to me. Like I took that personally. Like, you're not leaving a situation because you got the same situation when you go home. You're leaving me. So like I was super hurt, and what she was feeling, even when at the townhouse, it wasn't that I blamed her or I was angry at her. I was more angry with myself, and that thing that she was feeling, I think that it was I had to learn how to trust again, because like when we started the plan and we had it, like I trusted my wife with this thing that I like this. I trusted her with the vision. I trusted her with a dream, and she wasn't able to do it. And you know, and while I wasn't able to articulate it or intelligent enough to actually know what it was, like that was trauma for me. That was trauma, and like I had to learn how to trust her again with something that I care about. Meanwhile, she has something that I care about, and she is the primary caregiver all day, every day. So I have somebody like in my life like this, like, I don't know, like we're getting real deep right now. We're getting real deep. Mm-hmm. But like picture, like, I have my wife, whom I don't know if I trust anymore, who I have to trust with the most important thing in my life. Like, what's going on here? And then, like, that's just the side that, you know, okay, we're the townhouse. We moved back to town. I don't know how I'm gonna pay for it, but we moved back. With Avery, like, you know, seeing, like, okay, we moved back to the townhouse, and it still didn't get better. Like, she was still depressed. She was still, like, you know, all standoffish. Like, she was still like. So I did all of this, right? Like, I'm going in debt. Like, I'm in debt, and it still didn't get any better. I was so, like, distraught, and I needed my best friend, and she wasn't there. Like, I needed my wife. She wasn't there. So it was a tough situation. Like, she was dealing with something to where I couldn't help. And I couldn't do anything for the situation. I knew that it was a better situation, us getting the townhouse, but it still didn't solve the problem. Mm-hmm. And that was tough. It was tough. So this is where, like, I'm, like, telling her, like, I'm falling into certain inclinations, and I'm falling into this, and I'm falling into that. And, like, all she can do is look at me and just, you know, she's telling me, okay, you know, but it doesn't feel good. You know, it's not where I want to be. It's not who I want to be as a man. It's not who I want to be as a father, as a husband, anything. But, like, I'm telling her this, and, you know, she's just there. Like, it was a bad place. It's a bad place. But I think that, even in that place, like I said, God was flexing. And you want to know what I think brought us out? Or you tell me what you think brought us out, and then I'll tell you what I think brought us out.
Well, let me go back, because it was a really, really bad place. And I think,
and then, mind you, so not to cut you off, I was paying more because God wouldn't let me sign the 12-month lease. So remember,
right.
Remember,
yeah,
like, they where we went, they only do 12-month, 24-month. They only do in spans of years, mm-hmm. right? And like we were there, and, like, God had arrested me, and I could not sign.
Yeah.
For the year.
So would you do month to month?
We had to do month to month, and so you had to pay more month to month.
When you do month to month. Yeah. So I think my lowest point, just personally, mm-hmm. As a wife and as a mom, was it was one evening you had come home, and it had been a rough day with Avery, and you were short with me, mm-hmm. And you had started going off about something that I did. And I went up to the room, mm-hmm. I locked the door, and I just started screaming and crying. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know what I said. I don't know if I was praying. I don't know what. I just remember I was screaming and I was crying, and you started, like, banging on the door, like, open the door. What's wrong? Open the door. And so I finally opened the door, and you came in, and you just, like, you grabbed me, and you were just like, what is happening? And I was like, I don't know. It's just I can't do anything right, and you're always mad at me, and I just everything is wrong. And you just looked at me. You just held me. You were just like, I'm sorry. Like, I love you, and I don't know. But that was my lowest point. And we were in the townhouse.
Yeah, that was the town. I remember that.
Yeah.
Because I remember you locking the door, and, like, all types of stuff ran through my head.
Yeah, you were like, don't do this again, because I will break this door down.
I was And you could see in my eyes, I was dead serious.
Yes.
Like I will not, like, even no matter, like, yeah, we were in pretty low spaces, but there was one thing that did not change, and that is like, I will not lose you. Like, I'm not gonna lose you. So whatever it is you gotta do, you better do it with the door open. Like, I ain't about to we ain't about to do that. But okay, so that's a lot of heavy stuff. But you know what I think brought us out. You tell me what you think brought us out, and I'll tell you what I think brought us out.
I don't know. I don't know. I felt like after that happened, after I had that whole crying, screaming session, I know I felt better. And I was like,
that's good for me. What's good for you?
I know that felt better for me.
It's good for me.
So I mean, I felt like things got better after that. But I don't know, because we hadn't started counseling yet.
No.
We after the 6 months after we lived there, we were moving back in with somebody else. So it's not like we were staying out by ourselves.
No.
So I don't know. I mean, I did stop breastfeeding.
Stop breastfeeding
during that time.
That was contributing factor.
COVID happened.
There you go.
You think COVID? Really?
COVID.
Really? That's interesting. Okay,
COVID.
Explain.
So we're in March 2020. We have that we had a weekend where we invited some friends. They came up, the world shut down.
Yes, that same weekend, the world shut down.
So we're trying to scramble, trying to host them and find food and all this type of stuff. So
right, and there was no food in the grocery stores.
Everybody went crazy. They thought it was Armageddon / Hunger Games.
No toilet paper, couldn't find paper towels, no meat.
Nothing. We had to do pizzas.
We did.
It was
pizza. Rough.
It was tough, but so after that, everybody goes to their respective places, and then we were home for a little bit, and we started doing something that I think it restored my you felt better, cool, but it to me it didn't help my proximity from you. It didn't help my trust. It didn't help my trauma. It didn't help any of that. But we started
doing the singing videos. Yeah.
Those singing videos. Now, for those who don't know,
right.
If you go to my wife's page, like, there are some singing videos that were like 4 years ago. You'll see me on the piano, and she has Avery in her arms, and she's singing. And we're just doing it together, and like those moments, like, and then you're like, your family's like, Lee was singing, like, it's like, calm down, guys. But like, us worshiping together intimately, I think saved our marriage. And it saved me from myself, because like those intimate moments, like we go to church together every Sunday.
Right.
But that's different.
It is.
It's work, it's responsibility, it's leadership, it's all that type of stuff.
Right.
It's very programmed. It's not as intimate.
Yes.
A space. So like when we started doing that, like, and like that bond like started being built again.
Yeah. Cause that's really where we started.
Yeah.
Like,
we started in worship together.
Right. Cause we were in souls.
Right.
You were on keys.
Right.
And I sang.
Right. And some of those Tuesday nights was heavy.
Right.
Like, those Tuesday night rehearsals, like, I remember some of them like was so heavy. I was like, this feels like the start of my week. Like
Right.
this feels like, you know, the exclamation point to the sentence. But in 2020, when the world shut down, of course I was still moving and shaking because I was in media, but
Right. I felt like you were more busy during COVID
I was.
than anything else.
I was.
Because media was all that we had to stay connected to,
Right.
to everybody. So,
Right.
yeah.
So I was still working as hard as I'd ever had.
Yeah.
But it was those moments with just us. And then apparently, you know, thousands of people would watch. But
Yeah.
like there's those moments where it's just like this, I remember this.
Right.
Like I remember this feeling. I remember like I can start feeling her presence again. Like I'm attracted to her again. Like I'm back. Like I'm coming back to this place.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we start doing those singing videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to go back and move in with my parents.
Right.
We have to go move in with my parents, because again was doing the month to month, and
and before we left out of there, we started talking about trying to get a house again.
right.
And it was like, Lord, are we really about to do this again?
Like climb this mountain.
Oh yeah, yes. So what prompted that was that January, before COVID hit.
Right.
Remember, Bishop James Nelson
Said.
He
prophesied a house to us.
Right. He came during our consecration month, and he said, "Is anybody looking for a house?" And he was like, "And if you are, you bring a $50 seed and come up here." And he specifically talked to us, and he was just like, "The Lord says," and I don't know what this is, but I see a journal. And I see you all writing things down of what you want in a house. And the Lord says, don't settle. You are going to have a house before the end of 2020. And we, like, of course I'm broke up crying.
Oh, yeah, she gone. She gone.
because before we had left out in 2018, but before we had left Gravois Ridge, we had sat down.
We had sat down and wrote what we wanted on that paper. On the on the refrigerator. We put it on the refrigerator.
Yes, we did.
On the refrigerator, so it was like a journal paper.
Yes, we did, and we wrote down everything that we wanted in that house. And so and nobody knew about it, and we had forgot that we had written it down, because since the time we written it, we had lived with family, we had a baby, we went back to our to wherever, and it was just packed away in a box. And when he said that night, I went home and I found it, and I was like, I knew then, I was just like, he was sent by the Lord. He was a prophet for real, because literally nobody knew that we did that.
Nah.
We like I said, we forgot we did that. And when he said that, I was just like,
yeah,
that's it.
So
take my money. Take this seed, Lord.
So
that started us back on getting a house.
Back on that. So that was like January 2020.
Yep.
We start back, looking at it. And we're looking at houses, prospective houses.
Right.
And then we were like, we don't care where we go.
Right.
Where we go. We
just get us out of here.
Get us out. Right.
Yeah.
So, of course, the world shuts down. But that did not stop people from buying houses. Okay?
Right.
People were still buying houses.
If anything, I felt like that sent the market into a frenzy. Houses were getting snatched up. I mean, it was awful.
Pandemonium. Like, it was crazy, like trying to get a house. Yeah. So we actually get in a house. We like it. It's in North County, and we're about to go through the process. We're about to be like, all right, hey, this is it.
Right. It was newly renovated. It was beautiful.
Tall ceiling. Got a fireplace. Had the basement was done.
Yes.
It was nice.
It was nice. And the Lord said,
don't do it. I was so upset.
The Lord said no.
I was like, you got
like literally we were like 2 weeks away from closing, from signing them papers, and the Lord was like, no,
that ain't you, Doc.
and we were like, what? Like,
our real estate agents was pissed.
They were, because, and so here's the timeline, right? So this is our lease is going to be up, or we're going to stop paying in May. May was our last payment, and so we had to be out by May 31st, right? We're supposed to close on our home like that first week in June. So we are like, so what are we going to do, Lord? You know, you told us no. We have 2 weeks to be out of this apartment. So what do we do? Go to the basement.
The basement. Shouts out Tim Ross.
Right.
We went to the basement. So my parents, at the time, they had just renovated their basement.
And it was nice.
It was very, very nice.
Very nice.
They made it to where it was a separate living quarters.
Yeah, like a whole other apartment.
Like an apartment downstairs.
Full kitchen.
Right. Like it was
2 full bathrooms.
Really, really
it
nice.
It was really nice.
So now, again, just came from my first host, went to the Graveway Ridge, and now I'm about to go back to another host. This one is my own family. So it's just like, okay, all right, Lord. Getting tired of this, but whatever. So we do that. We in May we move in. We moved to mom and dad, and we did it slowly so that it was less intense and less things that we had to do like right on like move out day.
Right.
But still same thing. And we're in the basement, and the basement provided, you know, us some opportunities because it was COVID and all of us were sitting together because Alfonso, I think Lawrence moved back, or Alfonso. So we were all together.
Yeah. Lawrence had come back for a little bit.
Lawrence had come back and we were all together. So
yeah, that
was an amazing opportunity for us. And what we didn't know was that was the same year that we would have to, you know, let our grandparents go be with the Lord.
Right.
So like, no, he was preparing us for that, even though we didn't know it at the time. So we had to do that. That was the whole summer, really.
Right.
And once that was over with, I was exhausted from the house search. I was exhausted from the funerals and just everything that goes into it. So this is around like I think November or December, and we're talking. We're just like, well, what would it be like if we just go through the motions of building a house?
Right. And to me, baby, we're supposed to be talking about what it was like to have a child.
This is same Avery. This is it. This is Avery.
Yeah, this is Avery.
Because I think her, like, she spurred us to this. Like, the reason that we're talking about what we're talking about is because, like, when Avery came, like, Avery brought up things in us that would have been brought up eventually, but I think she like fast tracked it. And, you know, dealing with, you know, like stopping work and like, okay, we were having a house, but now what's the plan? Like that probably wouldn't have came up as poignant if Avery wasn't there.
Very
like,
true.
Avery was the focus. Like, all right, what are we doing?
Right.
You know, so the reason that we're talking about this is because like Avery, and you know, she's still, you know, a toddler, a baby, an infant, like, but we were going through things as parents. It's just like, okay, we need to be settled. We need stability. We need these things because this is what we want to give to her.
Right.
Right. So going back, so we go through the motions of like, all right, what would it be like if we built a house? Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was totally unattainable.
Well, I mean,
the same way I have felt.
You were lying,
right? The same way I felt about us leaving our apartment too soon in our marriage in that first year is the same way I felt about us building a house. I was just like, there is no way that we are going to build this house.
What?
What?
I mean, you wasn't lying. It wasn't. It was not attainable. Like, but I mean, we ignorant, so we just go through the motions. We walk through, and we
go look at the show home, and they're like, "Yes, are you interested?" We were like, "Yeah, we're interested. Yeah, cool. So that's nice. Look at that finish, babe.
Oh,
look at that.
You see that? That's
knowing we had 2 cents."
We ain't had 2 nickels to rub together. We over here talking about we interested,
right?
So
look at your selections. We're like, oh, that's not. You know what? Can you actually do the stainless steel?
Try that with that,
right? I like that. That looks nice.
That combo, that combo right there. That looked like money right there.
Like, would you like can lights or would you like lights that hang from the ceiling? Let's give us the can lights.
Give us the cans. We will do the cans, rolling. So we go through this. So first we go to the show house, right? Then I'm like, okay, if you're interested, right, you go to this place to make your selections, right? So we like, all right, we'll go to the place. So we go and we make our selections. Like we pick out everything that we want in the house. We pick out the floors, we pick out the carpets, we pick out the cabinets, we pick out the lights, we pick out the paint, we pick out the siding, the finish, the roof, all the time. We pick out everything in this house. And then as soon as so they're adding it up, they tally it tally. As soon as we're done with the selection, they be like, all right, this is how much it costs. And in order to start the build, we're going to need 10% up front. And we looking at it like, oh, that's what okay. Well, you know what?
Oh, that's what it is.
That's what that is. Okay. Well, let's take this on. We'll think about it, and we'll
let you know what we decide.
We'll let you know. We took that thing home, and it probably just sat on the dresser. Right, it sat on the dresser in that little folder. We did not open that thing up when we were at home, and that was in December. And again, still getting us ready because in January we would have to say goodbye to Sariah's father. Right. And then when we said goodbye to Sariah's father, Sariah was in Lawton for a long time. A long time.
Yeah.
So I had like 3 jobs. First job was going back and forth to Lawton, support the family, support my wife, making sure that, because Avery was down there too, making sure that she kept seeing me too. That's the first job. Second job, I still had a job at St. Louis. Like I still had to do my job here. Third job was I was going and looking at houses, because we knew that we couldn't get what we knew we couldn't get that. We don't have that,
right?
But maybe we can get something smaller to our price range. And so this was January. She's still there. February, I believe. March, start of March, they called me, and they called like, hey, this is McBride and Sons. Like, yeah, I know who you are.
Right. We got your photo on the table.
Did you forget that you guys like actually built a house out and it's just sitting here? And I was like, oh, yes, we did do that. Yeah, we did, but I'm just gonna keep it real raw with you.
Yeah.
Y'all need 10% up front,
and we ain't got it.
That's not something that we can do. And they were like, okay, well, what can you do? Like, what can you do? And guy said, what can you do? He's like, hold on, let me get back to you. So I like did the math in my head. I had to formulate a figure what I think that he wouldn't laugh at, like that he would take seriously. And I said this amount, and it's like, okay, cool. So that's the end of that conversation. Then I get another call from the woman that we had met with, like in the neighborhood. So she calls and she's like, hey, know that you talked to this person. He said that this is what you can do. Is that something that is it true? Can you do that? And it was like, yeah, that's about what we could do that. Okay, well, how about you put this amount, this deposit down, and then we will break ground on the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will get the rest of what you said you can get, like in, like, I think the build time was 3 months.
3 to 4.
3 to 4 months, but it wasn't even 4. Like, I think it was, they started breaking ground in April, May, June, July, August. So 4 months, and then we were in September.
Right. We were in by Labor Day.
Right. So it's like, hey, we'll get the deposit amount, and then you can pay the rest on closing day.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at that and was like, it seems a little weird, but let's go with it.
Who is gonna argue with the Lord?
Seems a little like
we ain't gonna argue with your Lord.
So I think were you in St. Louis when I had that conversation, or were you in Lawton?
No, I think I was in Lawton still.
Okay, so
that was February.
So I came back to you
mm-hmm.
and had the conversation.
Right. They called you because I remember standing in my childhood room
mm-hmm.
with that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we were in Lawton. So that was February.
So that happened,
mm-hmm.
and all of that being said, like, we were able to do what we need to do financially in order to get the house. The same house that we're in right now with mm-hmm. all of our selections and everything that we ever wanted. But then going back to that piece of paper on the refrigerator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything on that piece of paper on our refrigerator, we did.
Yes.
All right. Everything that we said that we would want in the first house,
mm-hmm.
we got. And it's not that we got it, like, we actually built it.
Right.
Like, so
right. We didn't go find it.
The
Lord allowed us to build it.
We built it ourselves.
Yes.
So
and the thing about it is that although the house wasn't built until 2021, we didn't move in until 2021.
Mm-hmm.
The word was still true because we started working on it in 2020.
Right.
Yeah.
We made all the selections in December of 2020.
Right.
So you said that you would have a new house, and we did. We just didn't know.
Right. We just didn't move in.
We did not know, because, I mean, honestly, I don't know if we would have been as bold as to say, "Hey, look, y'all say 10%, but this is what we got."
Right.
I don't think we would. Well, I don't think we would have moved like that. Right. But that's what ended up happening. Mm-hmm. So going backwards in terms of, like, where we were in the marriage, I think that that started the paved the road to where we would become in our best places in mm-hmm. terms of not just, I think that the house is a illustration, but it's also a piece and a peace of mind to where it's like, okay, like, this space is our own. Mm-hmm. And also not only just the space, but, like, our marriage in a place of its own now too, to where, like, we have repaired trust, we have better communication, we have better goals, we know who we are a little bit more, mm-hmm. To where, like, now that we know who we are, we know what we can do, and then knowing how to support each other in that role, and then now Avery has a place,
right.
And speaking of that, then we get pregnant again,
right.
And get pregnant again. We have another beautiful child.
Mm-hmm. And this time it went a lot better.
I think this time we were smart, and number one, we did couples.
Right.
Couples counseling.
Yep. Right after he was born.
After he was born,
we started.
We was like, all right, let's go ahead and put this.
Right.
Let's go ahead and put it in. Put it in the.
I was doing individual mm-hmm. and couple, like, kind of simultaneously, mm-hmm. or like right after I finished individual, then we went into couple. It was something like that.
Right.
But I knew that I needed individual counseling because mm-hmm. I didn't have that the first time around. So I knew I needed a safe place to go,
right,
that I could express my feelings and just process through whatever I was going through with postpartum and all that kind of stuff. And then, then we did our couples.
And we did couples.
And that just, that forced us to talk.
Yeah.
Like the way we were missing each other with Avery, like having that set time each week to talk, and then to have like an unbiased third party there to kind of prompt us to certain things or give us things to think about. Like it just, it made for our second baby, it made that whole process so much easier.
Right.
And even with breastfeeding, that whole process went better because, like you were talking about, that intimate space. I had that
with the house.
Right.
She could spread out, do what she wanted to do.
Right. And I didn't have to worry about trying to cover up and it was just control. It was so much better.
And then now we still had some difficulties in terms of breastfeeding because there was some remnants of the first, and then also you know, there's like ladies who breastfeed, they are giving affection to their child in a way to where they like their child needs it, their child wants it craves it, but it's also like it's exhausting for the mother.
Yes.
But it's also exhausting for the father because like it was definitely better than the first, but I still felt like, hey, like now I got to share my wife with this new baby. I already don't like sharing her with the old baby.
The old baby.
Now I got this new baby I got to share it with. And because of the pregnancy, the differences in pregnancy between birthing a woman and a man, because Avery, like when Avery was born, there wasn't too much in terms of like chemical changes with my wife. Like it was the same. But when my son was born, like there was trace amounts of testosterone in her because of the son, right? Testosterone for women is an aphrodisiac, right? So like my wife was amazing. During the pregnancy. Like it was amazing times that we had together. Great times. So now we had a baby, right? And I'm like, dang. Dang. I'm out. He was my best wingman when he was in the when he was in the womb. He was in the womb. He was my best wingman. And now, like, now I got to share, like, and because like she's being touched, like she's touched all day and all night and all that type of stuff. Now, like when I come around, she ain't trying to be touched no more. Like she don't want that.
Oh gosh.
But I digress. So we still had that going on. However, it was a lot better because again, we built back up that proximity, that proximity with each other, like a set time where we have to talk. We have to ask each other about this. We have to talk about these things. And I think that goes a long way when you're dealing with a marriage growing around kids. I think kids forces your marriage to grow, and if it doesn't, they consume it. I think kids will consume your marriage if you don't grow around them.
Right.
Like you have to grow in order for your marriage to still have the same amount of value as it did before. So like conversations that I have with my wife like are so much more like intense now. Not intense in terms of word, but intense in terms of like feeling, meaning, understanding, comprehension. Like I can have a whole conversation with my wife in a sentence that I couldn't do before. But I've had to grow to that because I've needed to do that because these kids run around and take all the time.
Yeah.
But you still need to be able to have that intimacy with your spouse. So breastfeeding this time was definitely better for my wife. And because it was better for her, it was better for me. I still had to share. I had to get over it. But again, through work, through consistency, you build something that can last, and you build something better. Like, we better now.
Right.
Yeah, we better now.
Yeah.
We good.
Yeah. I want to circle back to something. So you had mentioned like chemicals and hormones and things like that.
Yeah.
Another major difference that happened between Avery and Carter is with Avery, I started birth control at 6 weeks.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I was about to have Carter that I realized, like, wait a minute, one of the side effects of birth control is mood swings and depression.
Right.
And because, I mean, you're literally like taking chemicals and hormones and things like that in the birth control. And so what I realized was that when I started taking that birth control, I think that really had an impact on my mood and my postpartum depression. And I think that it made it worse.
Right.
So when we had Carter, we decided we're not going to do that. Right. And I think that it helped my emotions among going to therapy and being in a different environment and things like that. But I think that not doing birth control at that 6-week appointment, I think that helped a lot with my emotions and just and the depression. Because I talked to my therapist and I was like, hey, I don't know if I'm having it or not. So can you like give me some kind of evaluation? So we did. So one of our sessions was just going through like a list of evaluation questions of if I was dealing with postpartum depression and I just didn't know it or whatever. And thank the Lord, I didn't have it this time around.
We bless God for Jesus.
Yep. Didn't have it this time around. The first time, most definitely. And I didn't know what it was at that time.
Right.
Because I thought that since my mom didn't have it, I thought I wasn't going to have it. And that's just not how that works.
Ladies with the babies.
That's not how that works.
Go lay on somebody's couch. If not, I mean, you might not even be dealing with it, but I mean, it's better safe than sorry. Go let somebody tell you that you're good. Don't you assume that you're good. Like, it's better for us all. I speak for the men who have to deal with postpartum depression and all that therewith. We would rather you go see somebody who can tell you that you're good. Right. So,
yeah.
Yep, that is us.
Yeah.
What else you got, baby?
Well, since you brought up
what
testosterone.
Testosterone. Hey, that's an aphrodisiac.
That was something that we didn't realize was going to be such of a struggle when we first had Avery too, was just the lack of drive.
Yeah.
It was just like, no. It was just like, yes, I'm touched out, but also I have no desire.
No desire. You got no drive. You got no libido.
Right. None at all. And that was really difficult for us to try to navigate through.
Right. Because it's twofold, right? So number one, the first thing is because our natural relationship characteristics is we were always touchy-feely. Right. So even before Avery and stuff, like, this is how we interacted and we communicated in a certain way. So now you take that communication away. What do you replace it with? We didn't replace it with anything.
Right.
So not only do you miss the physical, but you miss that intimacy.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, I got no desire to do this, but I still need the intimacy. And now you don't even know how to do that in this relationship.
Right.
So it was a lot, but again, like, you have to, like, if you're committed to each other, like, be committed to each other beyond that. And so, like, all right, they're struggling with this, cool, but like, let's walk to get you healthy. Let's walk these steps. Let's see what you need. Do you need this? Do you need that? Do you need this? Like, if you're committed to the other person and what they need, then you'll be fine in terms of like a drive. Like, there's a lot of stuff they can give you. Trust me. There's a lot of stuff they can give you to where they'd be like, hey, drive ain't no problem no more. But you got to do that within the context of your relationship, and not outside of the relationship. That's when you get in trouble. So for her, she doesn't have a drive yet. The way that I deal with stress is physical intimacy, right? And I was stressed. Just I'm a new father. I ain't got no money. I'm living with people. You know, there was a lot of stress going on, and physically, definitely wanted physical intimacy, but my wife wasn't in that space. And even when I tried to manufacture that, she told me, like, she officially told me, like, this felt like this, like, and that was a wake up call too. It's like, oh dang, like, well, I don't want it to feel like that. So, like, I totally backed off the aggressive train. Like, hey, look, when she's okay, then we'll be okay. But I'm not doing that no more. Like, I'm not gonna put myself in that position anymore. So, like, you have to be okay. Like, you have to be okay, like, saying, like, all right, this is what I need at the time, but if my partner's not in the position to give it to me, then I'm more committed to her than my comfort. I'm more committed to her than my preference. And I'm more committed to her than my standards. And the standard is not a standard unless you're willing to suffer for it. So, like, my standard is, like, her complete satisfaction and her thriving in every single situation. That includes sexually. If she's not in a position to perform sexually, then she's not thriving. All right, is it something that I got to do? Is it something that we got to do as a family? But that's part of my commitment to her. So that happened, and I want to hear about it from your perspective in terms of, okay, when you didn't have it, when you're like, all right, I know, you know, I don't have it. Like, how did you feel that was affecting me?
Well, I knew it was affecting you negatively because you had an attitude.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's like, if you don't have that, you have an attitude. And I'll be like,
that happens.
Okay, you come here, because I'm
still hey, look, that emotional intelligence, yeah, it's still growing, but I don't even think that's an emotional intelligence. I just think that's just like a physiological effect.
Yeah, it's just like you had attitude. So yeah. So that was really rough. And of course I felt bad, because it's like, where else are you gonna go? Like we're in a marriage. So it's like, and that's the thing too that I'm grateful for you. And I've always felt this way even when we started dating. Like, I've never questioned whether you were going to be unfaithful or step out. Because I didn't do this, or because after we had Avery, I could not do, because physiologically I just had no desire to do it. But there was never once in my mind that I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do it because he might leave me, or he might be unfaithful to me if I don't. I never felt that way. But I did feel bad because, like I said, I knew that there was nowhere else you could go. Like, it was like, that was part of my responsibility, and I could not do that at the time. And so I felt bad, and I knew that you were really struggling with that. And you had told me, like, hey, I'm really struggling with this. And I felt helpless, because I was just like, I don't know what to do, because it's just not there.
Right. But again, like, there was things outside of your control that you couldn't control. However, like, you still got to be committed. Like, you still have to be committed to that other person.
And you know what? And I think what helped us this time too was exactly what you said. It's like, you know, if you don't have the physical intimacy, then what do you have to replace it with? And this time around with Carter, we talked about other forms of intimacy. So, like, spiritual intimacy, and it was something else. Physical, spiritual,
I think emotional
intimacy, something like that. And so we started doing things like Devos together through the Bible app. And we started talking more about our emotions and how things made us feel. And for you, it was just you talking, like us just having a conversation, and us putting in the time and the effort to other forms of intimacy helped to keep us close, while the physical intimacy was not where it should be or where it could be or whatever.
Just where it normally was. But like, again, that piece, don't compound the trauma with not doing it and then not replacing it. Like, have a replacement.
Yeah.
Have a replacement for it until you get back. Because again, people have, good seasons, bad seasons, but you got to ride through the seasons with that person.
Right.
And then be committed. Like, if this is where you are, then we gonna rock with that.
Right.
If this is where you are, then we gonna rock with that.
Right.
But
for better or for worse.
For better or for worse, right.
That's in your vows.
In sickness and in health. And that's what it is. Like, understand, like, she's not healthy in this way yet. But that don't mean you just throw them away just because, they can't service you, the way that you think, it should be. Like, that doesn't make sense. So, but yeah, we replaced that intimacy, and I think that grew our relationship, that grew our bond, that allowed us to speak to and get through some traumas that have happened in the relationship, some traumas that we didn't even know that we didn't even know were there. So that helped us. And then when she does get healthy, you'll be amazed to know that the work that you do, it comes back. Okay, so like, hey, like, do the work even when you don't see the dividends, because they will pay off.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about for guys, for the girls. I'm talking about for girls, for the guys too. Like, there's a whole lot of girls out there that want it more than men. All right. If you do the work in terms of the intimacy, you will reap the harvest.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What else you got?
That's it.
That's it.
Pretty sure once we turn the microphones off and the cameras off, I'll think of other stuff to say. But for right now, that's all I can think of.
All right. That's fine. Well, we are, like, if you're still rocking with us and these cameras are still on, I have no idea. But
I hope they're still on. I don't know. Still on,
but I know there's audio still rocking. I know that.
If not, we'll just cut to a graphic.
Right. But this was the visual, coming back to where it all started.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for rocking with us. Thank you guys. If you lasted this long, you're a real one. And again, hopefully this talk could help heal or rehabilitate you or your relationship. And if it has, or if it helps, man, shoot us a comment, shoot us a message, let us know. Or if you have a question that you think that we should be answering, hey, it'd be dope if y'all answered this. We don't shy away from questions. Most questions. We don't shy away. We don't shy away from most questions.
Yeah.
So, that being said, baby, I love you.
I love you.
All right. And that has been the Married or Something podcast. And again, don't forget to like and subscribe. I think I said that at the beginning. I'm gonna say it at the end. You knuckleheads are still not subscribed.
What?
All right. I done seen the graphic. Like, it was like, what was the last one? It was like 170 views, and then like it was like 70% of them weren't subscribed. I don't understand. Like, why? Just hit the button. Just hit the button. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit the button, okay? If y'all don't hit that button, we gonna find you.
No, okay.
We gonna find you. All right. We gonna drive. We gonna drive up, knock on your door, and be like, "Hey, what's up? How you doing? Still ain't hitting the subscribe button. Like, what is going on?"
That's a mess.
Hey, look,
so awful.
We
cannot threaten people into subscriptions, babe.
Who can't?
Oh my goodness! All right,
who can't? We can. Yes, we can. We ain't talking about violence. We're not talking about violence. Y'all see who we are. We, like, my wife is 5'2", I'm 5'8". We are not violent people, but we are petty, and we will annoy you. Okay, we will definitely do some things to where it'd be like, you know what, I should have just hit that subscribe button. But again, we love you. Yes. Subscribe to not, you knuckleheads. And we will definitely see you guys on the next episode.
Yep. All right. Bye.
Peace.